I've always known that a lot of my viewers are pretty knowledgeable folks, and I was blown away by some of the comments on my last video about some of the repeating arms that were created before the Second Amendment was written. The video was inspired by gun control arguments that the Second Amendment shouldn't apply to modern technology because muskets were the only thing available, and despite wisdom in almost every other facet, the Founding Fathers surely must have imagined that firearms would never improve and had reached the pinnacle of their developmental line in the late 1700s. Nothing would ever be improved and nothing new ever invented ever again. Or so the argument goes. While my video only covered a handful of examples, you guys wrote in with dozens of suggestions proving that, without a doubt, the Founding Fathers were well aware of high-capacity repeating firearms, encouraged developing the technology even further, and knew that, inevitably, firearms were going to improve, despite any short-sighted and intellectually dishonest arguments against it. Since it turned out to be such a popular topic, I'd thought that I'd do a short video or two, or three, just as a follow-up to the first and give you all a better look at what was available. And to give credit where it's due, I will mention and post the YouTube names from the comments that I found at the end of the first day because you guys are awesome. So here's to my viewers, and thank you for the positive comments and feedback. Now, I know that you're all on the edge of your seat, but before we get into today's examples, I do have to thank Blackout Coffee Company for sponsoring this video. They help keep the lights on around here in more ways than one, especially when I am writing a video at 2 a.m. or 8 a.m., or basically whenever I can squeeze it in between feral toddler antics. Everything from their flavored coffees to their firearms policy partner roasts are made fresh to order, support the Second Amendment and channels like mine. To get your brew on and help support the channel, go to blackoutcoffee.com/libertydoll. So here we go, let's dive right into another few great examples of repeating firearms. These viewers suggested the Kauthoff repeater. And special shout out to viewer JB Howland, who says his wife is a Kauthoff, which is pretty dang cool. The Kauthoff repeater was a type of repeating firearm that was designed by members of the Kauthoff gunsmithing family in Denmark around 1630 and became the first repeating firearm to be brought into military service. Some people say it is even the first true repeating firearm. At least 19 gunsmiths are known to have made weapons following the Kauthoff design. Some early guns were wheel locks, but the rest were flintlocks. The capacity varied between 5 and 30 rounds, though there is one specific musket that is rumored to have held 60 rounds, depending on the style of the magazines. It had separate magazines for the ammo and for the powder. It could also shoot all of these rounds in 1 minute, making it the fastest musket in the world. A single forward and back movement of the trigger guard, which could be done in 1 to 2 seconds, readied the weapon for firing, shifting the ball magazine on one side and bringing in powder from the magazine that was stored in the butt of the gun, which also creates an argument for it being the first lever action, though true lever action rifles wouldn't be created for another 2 centuries. A much rarer version of the Kauthoff was the pistol version. Although only the pair in this picture seems to have survived through history and little is known, as records of them are virtually non-existent. Unfortunately, the complex mechanism made them difficult to produce. Because only one family knew how to make them, they were never mass-produced, and only the Danish Royal Foot Guards were able to use them in service. These viewers mentioned the Ferguson rifle. The Ferguson rifle was one of the first breech-loading rifles to be put into service by the British military. It was also special because it was allegedly created in direct response to the good marksmanship of American riflemen. It had a rifled barrel, was a breech loader, meaning loaded from the back of the barrel, and was used by the Redcoats in the American Revolutionary War at the Battle of Brandywine in 1777, and possibly at the Siege of Charleston in 1780. It was able to fire 6 rounds a minute, which was twice the rate of a standard musket. One of its biggest claims to fame was that it could be reloaded while walking by way of a movable breech lock that could be opened and closed with a simple quick turn of the handle. This mechanism also meant it could be shot in the rain. The rifled barrel made it way ahead of its time, giving it twice the range of a normal musket. It had front and rear sights calibrated to give it a distance between 100 and 500 yards, though it was really only accurate up to about 300. As the story goes, the inventor took it to battle, leveled the sights, and prepared to take down an officer from behind 100 yards away. It would have been an easy shot with a clear line of sight, as the inventor had demonstrated hitting a bullseye from 100 yards while lying on his back as part of his original demonstration. But at the last moment, Major Patrick Ferguson decided it was dishonorable to kill an officer whose back was turned. That officer turned out to be George Washington, and if Ferguson had taken the shot, the British might have won the war. Its superior firepower was unappreciated at the time because it was, again, too expensive and took longer to produce. It also would have required the British to re-evaluate and change their tactics during wartime when they were more concerned with using tried and true methods with a smaller purse. Had more than 100 ever been manufactured, the war likely would have had a very different outcome. This viewer here mentioned the Lorenzoni pistol. This repeating flintlock system was designed by an Italian gunmaker named Michele Lorenzoni in the 1780s, though some sources say the system was used in both pistols and rifles as early as 1660. Like the Kauthoff, it had 2 magazines. These were in the frame of the gun, one for powder and one for ball ammo. It used a rotating breech lock and a lever that, moved in one direction, would drop both gunpowder and a round into separate chambers and then cock the flintlock. When the lever was pulled back, it would drop the powder and ammo into the breech. It held between 6 and 10 shots and only took a few seconds to load. But the guns were very intricate, required special gunsmithing skills to make and repair them, and thus were made in pretty small numbers. The system was also allegedly stolen and patented by English gunmaker Abraham Hill in 1664. This viewer here mentioned the Cookson rifle. The Cookson flintlock rifle, also known as the Cookson gun, is said to have been inspired by the Lorenzoni system and was built upon it. It was a lever-action breech-loading repeater invented by British gunmaker John Cookson and is one of the many similar designs to make an appearance on the world stage beginning in the 17th century. Like the Lorenzoni, it had 2 separate chambers for powder and ammunition, had a revolving breech lock with a lever that would also drop powder into the pan, and could hold 10 rounds. It only took 2 or 3 seconds to load a round. Another John Cookson, who was also a gunmaker, is known to have worked in America and also made repeating firearms. He's recorded in Boston, Massachusetts between 1701 and 1762, though it's unclear if there was any relation. Whether there was or not, in 1756 he advertised repeating firearms, firing 9 shots in the local paper, the Boston Gazette. I want to send a special thanks out to all of you who have taken the time to get to know these facts and help me spread them far and wide. I hope to have another video like this one out shortly, maybe even 2, with some of the other unique firearms of that time period that were brought to my attention. I can't read and respond to all 800 comments on that first video, but I do want you to know that I do read them. So for anyone that I may have missed, I'm sorry, but also keep your eyes out for part 3 because you might be in it. That is it for this video. I hope you guys learned something new, and if you didn't, I hope you at least enjoyed it. If you liked this video and are interested in more Second Amendment and related history, or you want to keep up with the modern day news, please like and subscribe if you are new here. Ring that notification bell so that you get all of the updates. And please share the video with all of your other gun-loving friends. And maybe some of the ones who don't, because maybe they'll learn something too. We can try. If you have any other suggestions for other firearms or other interesting Second Amendment history type topics, drop them down in the comments below. And as always, thanks for tuning in and happy shooting.